The morning was gray and heavy, the kind of day that felt like it was holding its breath. I sat in the corner of Grayson and Partners, the law firm's office, my hands folded tight in my lap. The leather chair creaked under me as I shifted, trying to ignore the way my brother Ethan filled the room. At 35, he was all sharp edges, tailored suit, slicked back hair, a grin that said he'd already won. He paced near the big oak desk, chatting up the receptionist like this was his victory lap. I guess, in a way it was. Helen Grayson, the lawyer, cleared her throat, her voice slicing through the hum of Ethan's small talk. "Emma, Ethan, are you ready?" she asked, peering over her glasses. I nodded, my fingers digging into the armrests. At 28, I wasn't sure I wanted to hear this, but I didn't have a choice. Our parents had died in that car crash 4 months ago. Dad behind the wheel, Mom in the passenger seat. Now here we were, about to find out what they'd left behind. Or, more likely, what they'd left to Ethan. Helen adjusted a stack of papers and started reading. To our son Ethan, for his tireless commitment to Carter Tech and the family name. The list went on like a parade of trophies. The company itself, a sprawling tech giant Dad had built. The California estate with its infinity pool and ocean views. A fat investment portfolio that could buy half of Silicon Valley. Ethan's smirk grew wider with every word, his chest puffing out like he'd earned it all himself. Then it was my turn. Helen paused, flipping a page, her eyes flickering with something, pity, maybe? To our daughter Emma, we leave the painting Whispers of Dawn, currently in the study of our family home. That was it. The room went quiet except for Ethan's laugh, a sharp barking sound that made my stomach twist. "A painting?" he said, turning to me. "What are you going to do with that, Em? Sell it at a flea market for gas money?" I forced my voice out, low and tight. "That's all? Just the painting?" Helen nodded, her lips pressing into a thin line. "It was your mother's favorite," she offered, but it sounded hollow. Ethan sauntered over, clapping a hand on my shoulder hard enough to sting. "Don't worry, little sis. I'll hook you up with a gig at Carter Tech. Receptionist, maybe. You can answer my phones." I shrugged him off and stood, my legs shaky but my mind made up. I didn't look back as I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. Ethan called after me, something about not being a sore loser, but I let it fade into the buzz of the office. The painting. That's all I had left of them. A random piece of art Mom used to stare at for hours. Growing up, I'd always been the odd one out, the artsy kid who'd rather sketch than study spreadsheets. Ethan was the golden child, the one who'd followed Dad into boardrooms and bank accounts. Me? I'd gone freelance, scraping by as a graphic designer while they rolled their eyes. And now this. A painting. It felt like one last jab, a reminder I'd never measured up. I drove to the house that afternoon, Ethan's house now, technically. The security guy at the gate squinted at me like I was a trespasser, but he waved me through when I mentioned the painting. Inside, the place smelled like lemon polish and memories. The study was just as I remembered. Bookshelves, Mom's old desk, and there it was, Whispers of Dawn, hanging above the fireplace, swirls of color, abstract and chaotic, like a sunrise caught in a storm. I'd always liked it, even if I didn't get it. But valuable? Hardly. I unhooked it from the wall, the frame heavier than I expected, and carried it out without a word. Ethan could have the rest. This was mine, worthless or not. The drive back to my cramped Los Angeles apartment felt longer than it should have. The painting sat in the passenger seat, wrapped in an old blanket I'd grabbed from the trunk. Whispers of Dawn, what a name. I kept stealing glances at it like it might suddenly explain itself. By the time I hauled it up the stairs and into my living room, the sun was dipping low, casting orange streaks through the blinds. I propped it against the couch, too tired to hang it right away, and flopped down with a glass of cheap wine. My eyes kept drifting to it. Those wild swirls of color, reds and blues bleeding into each other. Chaotic but somehow deliberate. Mom used to say it spoke to her. I never got that. To me it just looked messy. The next morning I decided to deal with it. I'd need something to fill the blank wall above my desk anyway. Might as well be this. I grabbed a hammer and a nail, hoisted the frame up, and stepped back. That's when I saw it. In the morning light, the swirls didn't just look random anymore. There were shapes in there. Tiny curves and dots woven into the paint. So subtle you'd miss them unless you were staring. My designer brain kicked in. I pulled out my phone, snapped a picture, and loaded it into Photoshop. Zooming in, those shapes sharpened. Little arcs, clusters of dots, almost like a code hiding in the chaos. I was still hunched over my laptop when Mia showed up. She's my best friend, a coder with a knack for finding patterns in anything. She barged in with a bag of tacos, her usual Saturday ritual, and stopped short when she saw the painting. "Whoa, Em, what's with the abstract explosion?" she said, dropping the bag on the counter. I pointed at my screen. "Look at this, tell me I'm not crazy." She leaned in, squinting at the magnified shapes. "Okay. That's weird, it's like a puzzle or something. You sure your mom didn't secretly work for the CIA?" I laughed, but it stuck with me. A puzzle. Mom had always been the quiet one, sketching ideas in notebooks while Dad barked orders and Ethan chased profits. Could she have hidden something in this? I spent the rest of the day digging online. Whispers of Dawn, artist unknown. No auction records, no fancy exhibitions. The gallery where Mom bought it, some hole-in-the-wall spot in Santa Monica, had shut down years ago. It was a dead end. Still, those shapes nagged at me. They weren't random. I'd bet my last freelance paycheck on it. That night, my phone buzzed. Ethan. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won. "Hey, sis," he drawled, his voice dripping with that fake charm he used on investors. "Still mad about the will? Look, I'll do you a solid. $50 for that painting. I'll donate it to some charity auction, write it off. What do you say?" I gripped the phone tighter. "It's not for sale, Ethan," he chuckled. "Come on, Em, don't be dramatic. It's a piece of junk." Mom probably picked it up at a garage sale. I hung up without answering. Junk or not, it was mine. And something about his tone, too casual, too pushy, set my nerves on edge. By Sunday I was obsessed. I dragged my desk lamp over, tilting it to catch the painting from different angles. The shapes shifted with the light, almost glowing against the darker swirls. I traced them with my finger on the screen, sketching them out in a notebook. Hours slipped by, wine forgotten, tacos cold on the counter. Mia texted me around midnight. "You still alive, or did the painting eat you?" I sent back a blurry photo of my notes. "Help me figure this out." Her reply came fast. "On my way." She showed up with coffee and her laptop, diving in like it was a game. "Okay, these dots and curves, they're not just decoration," she said, tapping keys. "They remind me of old encryption stuff, like a cipher." We played with it, rearranging the shapes, looking for patterns. Then, around 2 a.m., it hit me. I flipped the image horizontally in Photoshop, and there it was. A sequence. Numbers and letters, faint but clear, tucked into the bottom corner. Mia leaned back, eyes wide. "Holy crap, Em! That's coordinates. And what's this other part? A code?" I punched the coordinates into Google Maps. They pointed to a spot just outside the city. The old family house, the one Ethan owned now. My heart thudded. "Why would Mom hide this in a painting?" I muttered. Mia grinned. "Maybe it's a treasure map. You gonna check it out?" I didn't answer right away, but I knew I had to. Ethan's call replayed in my head. $50 for a piece of junk. He'd never cared about art before. What didn't he want me to find? The next evening, I grabbed my keys and the painting, adrenaline buzzing under my skin. Whatever Mom had left me, it wasn't worthless. Not anymore. The road to the old house stretched out dark and quiet, the kind of quiet that presses against your ears. I kept the painting in the back seat, glancing at it in the rearview mirror like it might vanish if I didn't. It was past 9 when I pulled up to the gate. The place loomed ahead, big, modern, all glass and sharp angles, the house Dad had built when Carter Tech took off. Ethan's now. The security light flickered as I punched in the old code on the keypad. I half expected it to fail, but the gate slid open with a groan. Guess he hadn't bothered changing it. I parked around back, out of sight from the main road, and grabbed my spare key, the one Mom had given me years ago when I'd crashed here after a rough breakup. The air smelled like pine and damp earth as I crept toward the side entrance. My stomach churned. If Ethan caught me, he'd flip. But those coordinates, they pointed here, and I wasn't turning back now. Inside, the house was a ghost of itself. Furniture draped in sheets, boxes stacked in corners like Ethan was already planning to sell. I made my way to Mom's study, my sneakers silent on the hardwood. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Her desk sat untouched, a time capsule of pens and papers, and the faint scent of her lavender lotion lingered. I set the painting down and pulled out my phone, double-checking the coordinates. They lined up. Right here, this room. I started searching, bookshelves first, running my hands along the spines, tugging at anything that might move. Nothing. Then the desk drawers, old receipts, a faded photo of me and Ethan as kids, but no clues. Frustration clawed at me. Those shapes in the painting had to mean something. I turned to the wall behind her chair, where a heavy oak bookcase stretched floor to ceiling. On a hunch, I pressed my palms against it, feeling for a catch. A soft click sounded, and the whole thing shifted an inch. My breath caught. I shoved harder, and it swung open like a door, revealing a small metal safe embedded in the wall. The safe had a digital keypad, no keyhole. I fumbled for my notebook, flipping to the second part of the code I'd found in the painting. A string of numbers and letters, 7K9P2M. My hands shook as I punched it in. A green light blinked, and the door popped open with a hiss. Inside was a single item, a leather-bound journal, worn at the edges, the kind Mom used to doodle in when I was little. I pulled it out, my fingers brushing the cover, and sank into her chair. The first page was in her handwriting, neat and slanted. "Emma, if you're reading this, you've found what I hid for you." My throat tightened. I kept going. "Carter Tech wasn't your father's dream. It was mine. The algorithms, the software patents, the core of it all, I built them. Richard took credit and Ethan helped him bury me. They turned me into a shadow in my own life." Page after page spilled out the truth. Mom had been a genius, sketching code and designs late at night while Dad schmoozed investors. He'd patented her work under his name, locked her out of the company she'd created. Ethan, barely out of college, had signed off on it, eager to play the loyal son. I leaned back, the journal heavy in my lap. All those years I'd thought Mom was just quiet, content to let Dad shine. But she'd been fighting in her own way, hiding this for me. The last entry hit hardest. "The painting is your key, Emma. The shapes hold more than coordinates. There's a sequence to unlock what I left behind. Don't let them take it from you." A sequence. I grabbed my phone, pulling up the painting's photo again. The dots and curves. I'd only cracked part of it. There was more. Headlights swept across the window, tires crunching gravel outside. My pulse spiked. I shoved the journal into my bag and peeked through the blinds. A black SUV rolled up, Ethan's car. He stepped out, phone to his ear, his voice carrying through the glass. "Yeah, she's probably here. I'll handle it." "Handle what, me?" I ducked back, grabbing the painting. The safe door clicked shut behind me as I pushed the bookcase into place. Footsteps echoed in the hall, too close. I bolted for the side door, clutching the painting and my bag, my mind racing. Ethan hadn't just laughed off the will. He knew something. Why else would he show up here now? I slipped outside just as the front door slammed open, his voice barking my name. "Emma, you in here?" I didn't wait to find out what he wanted. I ran to my car, tires spinning as I peeled out, the painting bouncing in the back. My phone buzzed. Ethan again. I ignored it, hands tight on the wheel. Back at my apartment, I locked the door and spread the journal on the table. Mom's words burned into me. "Don't let them take it." I flipped to the painting's photo on my laptop, zooming in on those shapes. Hours ticked by, my eyes aching, but then I saw it. A second layer. The curves aligned differently when I rotated the image 90 degrees, forming another code. X4, L8, Q9. My gut told me it was big, bigger than the safe. Mom hadn't just left me a story. She'd left me a weapon. Ethan's SUV rolled past my building an hour later, slow and deliberate. I watched from the window, curtains barely cracked. He didn't stop, but I knew he'd be back. Whatever was in that painting, he wanted it bad, and I was going to find it first. I barely slept that night, the journal open on my coffee table, the painting leaning against the wall like it was watching me. Ethan's SUV circling my block kept replaying in my head. He'd never cared about Mom's stuff before. Why now? I sipped lukewarm coffee, staring at that second code I'd pulled from the painting. X4L8Q9. It had to unlock something, but what? The coordinates had led me to the safe, so this had to be the next step. Mom's words looped in my mind. There's a sequence to unlock what I left behind. I just had to figure out where it fit. Around dawn, I dragged my laptop closer and started cross-referencing the journal. Mom's entries were meticulous. Sketches of code, dates, even little notes about me and Ethan when we were kids. But near the end, she'd written about a vault. Not the safe, something bigger. "Everything's in the vault, Emma. The painting will show you." My fingers froze on the keys. A vault? At the house? Somewhere else? I needed more time, but time was the one thing I didn't have. A sharp knock jolted me upright. My heart slammed against my ribs as I crept to the door, peering through the peephole. Ethan stood there, hair mussed, tie loose, like he'd been up all night too. "Emma, open up," he called, his voice low but edged with something I hadn't heard before. Desperation, maybe? "We need to talk about the painting." I stayed quiet, barely breathing. He knocked again, harder. "Come on, Em. I know you're in there. Don't make this messy." Messy? My mind flashed to the journal, the safe, his car outside the house last night. He wasn't just guessing. He knew I'd found something. "Go away, Ethan," I said finally, my voice steady despite the shake in my hands. "It's mine. You got everything else." He laughed, but it was bitter, sharp. "You don't get it, do you? That painting's not some sentimental crap. Give it to me, and I'll cut you in. 10 grand. Cash." Last 10 grand. For a painting he'd mocked days ago. I backed away from the door, clutching my phone. "I said no!" He muttered something I couldn't catch. Then I heard a jingle. "Keys!" My spare key. I'd given it to him ages ago when my place flooded, and I'd never asked for it back. The lock clicked. Panic surged through me. I grabbed the painting and the journal, sprinting to my bedroom, locking that door just as the front one swung open. "Emma," Ethan's voice boomed through the apartment. "Where are you? Where's the damn painting?" I pressed myself against the wall, the frame digging into my chest. His footsteps thudded closer, drawers slamming, something crashing in the kitchen. Then my bedroom doorknob rattled. "Open this door, now!" I didn't answer, my eyes darting to the journal. That code, X4L8Q9DRE. I had to use it, but how? The rattling stopped, replaced by a low murmur. He wasn't alone. Another voice cut through, calm and deep, one I hadn't heard in months, not since the crash. "Ethan, enough! She's smarter than you think!" My blood turned to ice. I cracked the door an inch, peering out. Ethan stood in my living room, pacing, but next to him, tall, gray-hailed, alive, was Dad. Richard Carter, the man we'd buried, or thought we had. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Dad was dead, car wreck, closed casket, the whole deal. But there he was in a dark coat, watching Ethan tear my place apart. "She's got it," Ethan snapped. "She was at the house last night. I saw her car. We need that painting." Dad's voice stayed even. "Then we wait her out. She'll come around, or she won't have a choice." My knees buckled. Fake dead? Why? I slid the journal open, flipping to Mom's last entry, my hands trembling. "Richard will do anything to keep this buried, even bury himself. The vault holds it all. Use the sequence. Bury himself." He'd staged the crash, faked his death. And Mom? She'd known he might. The painting wasn't just her revenge, it was her trap. Ethan pounded the bedroom door again, splintering the wood. "Emma, I'm not kidding. Open up!" I stumbled to my laptop on the nightstand, the painting propped beside me. That sequence, X4L8Q9. Mom's vault. I remembered her study, the old desktop she'd kept there, always locked with a password Ethan and Dad never bothered to crack. If I could get back there, input the code. Dad's voice cut through again. "She's got Olivia's journal too, doesn't she?" Ethan cursed. "Yeah, probably. We should have burned that damn study down." My stomach dropped. They knew about the journal, knew what Mom had hidden. I opened my laptop, hands shaking, and pulled up a remote access app Mia had set up for me ages ago. If Mom's computer was still online, I could try the code from here. The door cracked louder. Ethan was losing it. I typed fast, praying the old desktop hadn't been wiped. Connection flickered, then held. A password prompt popped up, X4L8Q9. I hit enter. The screen blinked, then lit up with files, hundreds of them. Patents, emails, recordings. A dialog box flashed. Emergency protocol initiated. Uploading to secure servers. Mom's voice filled my headphones, a recording starting automatically. "If you're hearing this, you've unlocked the truth. Carter Tech stole everything. My work, my life. This is for you, Emma." The door burst open just as the upload bar hit 100%. Ethan lunged, but Dad grabbed his arm. "Too late," I said, slamming the laptop shut. "It's gone. Every news outlet, every regulator, Mom made sure." Ethan's face twisted, rage and disbelief. Dad just stared, his calm cracking. "You don't know what you've done," he said, voice low. "You've ruined us." "No," I shot back, clutching the painting. "You ruined yourselves. Mom just made sure I'd finish it." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Someone must have tripped an alert in Mom's system. Ethan swore, bolting for the door, but Dad didn't move. He looked at me, then the painting, a flicker of something. regret, maybe, in his eyes. "She always said you'd figure it out," he murmured. Then he turned and walked out, leaving me alone with the wreckage and the truth. The sirens grew louder, slicing through the haze in my apartment. I stood there, the painting still in my arms, my busted door hanging off its hinges. Ethan's footsteps had faded down the hall, Dad's slower ones trailing after. My laptop sat closed on the nightstand, but I could still hear Mom's voice in my head. "This is for you, Emma." The upload was done. Every dirty secret of Carter Tech spilling out into the world. I sank onto the bed, legs shaky, the weight of it all crashing down. Mom hadn't just left me a painting. She'd left me a reckoning. My phone buzzed nonstop. Texts, calls, notifications piling up. I ignored them, pulling the journal closer instead. The last page had one more line I hadn't read. "Take what's yours, Emma. They can't stop you now. Take what's mine. Carter Tech, Mom's brainchild, stolen and twisted by Dad and Ethan. If those files were real, if her patents held up, maybe I could..." A pounding on the front door snapped me out of it. "Lap D, open up!" I stumbled to my feet, setting the painting down, and let them in. 2 officers stepped inside, eyeing the mess. Overturned chairs, shattered lamp. "We got a report of a break-in," one said, his hand resting near his holster. "You okay?" I nodded, throat dry. "Yeah. It was my brother and my dad. They're gone now." They asked questions, fast, clipped ones, while I tried to piece it together. Ethan breaking in, Dad alive, the upload. "Check your system," I told them, pointing to my laptop. "I sent evidence. Corporate fraud, theft, it's all there." The younger cop raised an eyebrow but took the laptop when I handed it over. "We'll need a statement," the other said. "This is bigger than a break-in." The next few hours blurred. Police station, endless questions, a styrofoam cup of coffee I didn't drink. By morning, the news hit. Carter Tech CEO faked death, linked to patent scandal. My phone lit up with headlines. Tech giant built on stolen innovations. Mom's name, Olivia Carter, was everywhere, her face on every screen. Reporters camped outside my building, shouting questions as I ducked past. I didn't answer. Not yet. Mia showed up at noon, shoving through the chaos with a bag of donuts and wide eyes. "Em, what the hell? Your dad's alive and this?" She waved at my trashed apartment. "You're famous now." I managed a weak laugh, sinking onto the couch. "Not how I planned it." She sat next to me, pulling up a news stream on her phone. "They arrested Ethan an hour ago. Car chase on the 405. Your dad's still out there, though." I stared at the painting across the room, its swirls catching the light. "Mom knew they'd slip up," I said. "She set this up years ago." Mia handed me a donut. "So, what's next? You gonna let them tank Carter Tech, or..." She trailed off, but I knew what she meant. Take what's mine. The patents were the key. Mom's files, hundreds of them, proved she'd invented everything Carter Tech sold. Software, algorithms, even the AI they bragged about at tech expos. By afternoon, a lawyer called. Some guy from the SEC, voice crisp and urgent. "Miss Carter, we've reviewed the uploads. Your mother's work is airtight. The company's board wants to meet today." I hung up, my hands cold. The board, Ethan's cronies. But they weren't in charge anymore. Not if I played this right. I walked into Carter Tech's headquarters that evening, the painting tucked under my arm like a shield. The glass tower gleamed all sleek lines and money, but the lobby buzzed with panic, employees whispering, phones ringing off the hook. The boardroom was worse. 10 suits around a table, faces pale, eyes darting. "Miss Carter," the chairman started, "we're prepared to negotiate." "Negotiate?" I set the painting on the table, its colors stark against the polished wood. "My mother built this company. You've got nothing without her patents." "I'm not here to negotiate. I'm here to take it." They flinched, exchanging looks. The stock was tanking, lawsuits piling up. They had no leverage. An hour later they signed it over, control to me, effective immediately. Ethan's empire, Dad's legacy, now mine. The next week was chaos. Firing the old guard, hiring people I trusted, digging through Mom's patents to see what else she'd left. I found a memo in the vault files dated a year before the crash. "Carter Tech will collapse without innovation. Give it to Emma, she'll make it right." She'd seen this coming. I renamed the company Dawn Innovations, a nod to the painting, and started dismantling the lies. No more stolen ideas, no more backroom deals. I turned it into a hub for creators, people like Mom, who'd been silenced too long. Ethan wrote from jail a month later, a scrawled note full of apologies and pleas. "We can rebuild, Em. Family first." I tossed it in the trash. He'd made his choice. Dad stayed off the grid. No calls, no sightings. Maybe he was running, maybe he'd given up. I didn't care. The painting hung in my new office, its shapes a quiet reminder of what I'd won. One night, I got a package. No sender. Just a note in Mom's handwriting. "You've done it, Emma. Now make it yours." Inside was a sketch. A new algorithm, unfinished, like she'd left it for me to complete. I smiled, tracing the lines. She'd given me more than a company. She'd given me her spark. 2 years later, the view from my office window didn't feel real. Dawn Innovations headquarters, still that sleek glass tower, hummed with a different energy now. No more hushed deals or corner-cutting execs. The lobby buzzed with young coders, designers, inventors, people who'd never had a shot before. I leaned back in my chair, the painting catching the late afternoon sun. Whispers of dawn. Those swirls and shapes weren't just a code anymore, they were a promise Mom had kept. The company had changed fast. After I took over, I dug into Mom's patents, dozens of them, some so ahead of their time they made my head spin. We rolled out new tech, clean and honest, and the stock climbed back up. But it wasn't about the money. I set up a foundation, Olivia's spark pouring profits into grants for creators who'd been overlooked, cheated, or pushed aside. Every month I'd get letters from them. A single mom with a game-changing app, a kid from the suburbs with a solar panel design. They reminded me of her. Leah stuck around, heading up our coding team. She'd barge into my office with coffee and wild ideas, like old times. "You're a softie now, Em," she'd tease, nodding at the painting. "Bet your Mom's grinning up there." I'd laugh, but she was right. Sometimes late at night when the building went quiet, I'd swear those shapes shifted, just a little, like Mom was still tinkering, leaving me hints. Ethan got out last month. His sentence was light. 3 years cut short for good behavior. He sent me a text. "Can we talk? Rebuild what's left?" I stared at it for an hour, fingers hovering over the keys. Rebuild, like it was that simple. I didn't reply. Some bridges stay burned. Dad was still a ghost. No word, no trace. The SEC had a warrant out, but I doubted they'd find him. He'd built his life on disappearing acts. The package from Mom stuck with me, though. That sketch, half-finished, scribbled in her slanted handwriting, sat framed on my desk. I'd cracked it 6 months ago, turning it into an algorithm that streamlined our whole system. It wasn't just a gift. It was her way of saying I could carry this forward. I did. Dawn Innovations wasn't Carter Tech 2. It was something new, something hers. Last week we hosted the first Olivia's Spark Fair. The convention hall was packed. Hundreds of inventors, tables piled with prototypes, voices overlapping in a chaotic, beautiful mess. I wandered through, hands in my pockets, watching them pitch ideas without fear. No one here was getting robbed of their work. At the end, I handed the top prize, a grant and a spot in our incubator, to a girl named Lila, 19, shy, with a wearable device that could monitor vitals better than anything on the market. Her eyes lit up when I gave her the trophy, and for a second I saw Mom in her. Quiet, brilliant, unstoppable. Back in my office that night, I found one last surprise. A letter slipped under the door, no stamp, just my name in Mom's script. I tore it open, pulse racing. Emma, if this reached you now, you've made it yours. I didn't want you to inherit their mess. I wanted you to build what they couldn't. You're my dawn. My throat tightened, fingers brushing the ink. She'd timed it somehow, left it with someone to deliver after I'd proven myself, Mia. Maybe, or the lawyer, I'd never know. I looked up at the painting, its colors soft in the dim light. Those shapes, curves and dots that had unraveled everything, felt like home now. They'd led me here, to a place where Mom's genius didn't just survive, it thrived. Dawn Innovations wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And every day, it grew. New ideas, new voices, a legacy built on truth instead of theft. I grabbed my bag, locking the office behind me. Lila's device was launching next month, the first of many. As I stepped into the elevator, I caught my reflection in the glass. Tired, sure, but steady. Mom had seen something in me I hadn't known was there. The painting wasn't worthless. It was everything. And now, so was I.